I've said it before, in 2002 I heard about 3D printers, 3D organ printers, heard about OLED televisions, still don't have those in 2018, 16 years later. E-ink, it's kind of still hasn't really come out outside of the Kindle. All of this technology has been invented, it just hasn't been implemented. And these are just small little electronic consumer gadgets. Can you imagine the enormity of the stuff that exists? I remember what my final thought was now. When you hear stories of other civilizations, or civilizations that are less advanced than yours or primitive, they're talking about us. So I was hearing something yesterday. It was an analogy of it was by Blackpilled, and he was giving an analogy of the prime directive of Star Trek. And he was saying that we can't just bring the third world up to the first world like overnight. They won't know how to adapt to it. You have to bring it in slowly. You have to have gradual evolution. And then I remember watching Yaron Brooks, formerly of the Atlas Society. He was giving a speech somewhere, and he was saying that, he was talking about globalization. He was saying that you have to allow, we had the Industrial Revolution in the United States. We went through the sweatshops, we went through all that, had the labor unions, had all those societal evolutions to lead to the point that we're at now. He's saying that, like China and other countries that are doing the majority of, I guess, industrial production for the rest of the world right now, through globalization and whatnot, that they need to go through these phases, and that certain factions of our ideologies don't want to see those civilizations to have to go through the hardships, working hard, learning the work ethic, so that they could appreciate the technology when they finally get it a few generations later. So it's easy to say that about these other cultures. But then you're wondering, now wait a minute. If we are engineering these other civilizations, withholding technology that could set them forward 100 years into the future, instantaneously right now in 2018, how much of our history was also delayed? So for instance, as sweatshops in America led to unions, were worker unions grassrootedly created? Did they actually form organically? Or were they interjected into the society artificially? And then you wonder about every single movement that we've read about in history books. Was any of it organic? Was any of it real? Or was it all socially engineered into the society? As you watch the developing world and watch the development of their societies, how much of their society is organic and natural, and how much of it is interjected artificially from the outside, from controllers of society, people that are orchestrating the strings of their societal evolution. And there was a scene in Westworld where, I don't know if it was Bernard or Arnold, took Dolores to a present-day city.
So many people have stopped seeing it altogether.
And showed her what she called the splendor.
Have you ever seen anything so full of splendor?
And she appreciated all the technology that existed in the present, and he pointed out to her that people of present day don't appreciate it anymore.
But sometimes I think we're simply not the ones who deserve it.
You could look at these third worlds and point the finger, or just kind of like say, oh, well, it's them, it's not us. Think of all of the crazy things that have been interjected into our society over the last 10 years. And even lesser things in the 90s and the 80s and the 70s and the 60s. Think of all that stuff that made it into our society. Are the average people capable of creating such movements on their own? Whatever the movement is, could anything organically begin? I've tried my entire life of 39 years to engineer movements in society. I've had minor success, and I think ideas I've had have then been adopted and then modified and then became part of the larger thing and attributed to somebody else. But I don't have the capability. But any sort of sustained movement, especially protests, organized protests, those are not happening organically. There was a movie that helped me understand this. It was about the WTO protest of 1999, 2000, 2001. Andre 3000, Andre Benjamin from Outkast was one of the, I don't want to say main characters, but he was in the film. And the people staged this protest against the New World Order, the World Trade Organization. And they won in the end. I mean, they got tear gas, they got smoke bombed and all that. But in the end, for that day, they felt like they won. Like some guys got, like Andre went to jail, but then he was released. But when they were in the jail and they were saying, we won, the other guy says, maybe it was Andre, one of them said, we won today, but tomorrow all of us have to go back to work, and they don't. And now they'll spend more of their time plotting more and more ways against us while we have to pay for everything and have to spend our 40 hours at the workplace. So they have all the time in the world, and this required all of our resources just to make this protest for one day. But they can outlast us. So all the protests that happened since, they weren't organic, which means if you participated in one of them, you were someone's useful idiot. You were artificially advancing an artificial societal advancement. Now, why do I even mention any of this? I mean, I'm not a protester. I'm not a revolution. Well, I like to think of myself as a revolutionary, but not in the traditional sense. I'm probably saying all this because I'm constantly trying to say that this is all an artificial reality. And not everybody, but nearly everybody still denies that. They all require you to believe and say that all of this is real and that everything that was in these science books is accurate and true. But it's not. None of it is. So I try to utilize all of these little tiny examples, and hopefully as I create a collection of all this, the picture then becomes clear of the illusion, of the artificiality of everything. And that's all. It's from being gaslit all the time to say that, no, I'm not right. I spend the majority of my time trying to figure all this stuff out. And the majority of the people that deny, they're spending their time looking for ways to occupy their time. I'm trying to free my time. But they're the one, now, a wiser friend would say, why do you even care about those people? Again, it's because I'm competitive. So, and not only that, I'm trying to create the reality that I want, right? So I'm trying to revolutionize and advance society and move us along a little bit. And I'm constantly met with denial, I almost want to capture the majority of the denial that occurs all the time. I'm part of the one that acknowledges that we live in artificial scarcity. And when I say artificial scarcity, I don't mean a code word for capitalism, okay? Because artificial scarcity exists in communism and socialism as well. It all goes on this idea that there's a scarce amount of resources to go around, and it's the method of distribution or redistribution of them. No, I'm not for any of those isms. Now, the socialists and the communists, they talk about the redistribution of wealth. I'm for the distribution of wealth on demand perpetually. I've said it before on this channel, but the way this layering works is I have to completely layer this concept over and over again in order for it to get understood and adopted, because the first time you hear it, you're going to reject it. Second time, you may actually hear it through. So it's artificial scarcity. There's absolute abundance. Everything is kept scarce. Biggest example, diamonds. And then you might ask, well, why do you want people to believe that reality is an illusion? I actually don't. I just want the technology that's being suppressed to be released so that everybody can be independent, not have to work. And really, I don't even care about everybody else. I just don't want to have to surrender 40 hours of my work week to earn money to pay for things that I should be able to just create with a 3D printer, the replicator from Star Trek, and have absolute abundance, have all my basic necessities of life available perpetually, endlessly, without my need to trade labor for paper, money, or credits or digits on the screen. It's not even so much the money that I care about, it's the time. It's the time and then the wear and tear on my body and mentality and the conditioning that goes with having a structured work environment when I want to spend my time reading, learning, training myself, learning new things, instead of working all the time for somebody else. But because we live in this artificial system where they've removed all the resources and prevent, and even call it threats to national security for the technology that could liberate everybody to come out. That's why my retaliation is to then show people that everything is fake in hopes that eventually people say, yeah, where are these robots? Where is the automation? Why are we working 40-hour work weeks? Who decided it's a 5-day work week? I mean, it's so drilled in our head that it's 5-day work week. And again, it's not the working, it's the free time. I don't have enough free time. And I know that the release of free time is the most forbidden thing of all. And I know this from reading 1984 by George Orwell and by reading Animal Farm by George Orwell. In 1984, The Theory and Practice of Oligarchical Collectivism, it says, the primary purpose of war is not necessarily to kill off part of the population. It's to destroy the manufactured goods so that a surplus does not take place. For that if a surplus took place, then people would have idle time. If they had idle time, they might figure out who's running the show. And again, I'm not trying to take whoever's spot is that's running the show. I just want my free time. And with that free time, I'm not going to come after your spot. Just give me the free time. If I don't get it, I'm going to have to keep doing this. And then in Animal Farm, the animals were trying to build a windmill. Windmill is free energy. Right as they got to the point that they completed the windmill and it was about to be functional, the head pig, Napoleon, would stage a fake terrorist attack and blame it on his political enemy, Snowball. And he did this multiple times in the book. And animals never got their free energy. How's about some free time? Everything I do is to get that free time. I'll work 5 times as hard as somebody to get some free time. I just want my free time. But what's even worse is if I had the 3D replicator, there's a thing called the basket of goods, and they would still charge you. See, the basket of goods is presented like it's this friendly thing, but it's really evil. It's in the event that some product ever becomes lower priced, they'll then raise the prices of everything else. And even if you had the ability to completely produce everything for you, you still have to pay a property tax. You still have to pay. You have to pay, which means you have to work. When do I get the free time? I don't mind working on my things. I want to work on my things. I'll stay busy on my things, but I'm required to spend time on other people's things. Poor me. Poor me. I only live in the United States, in a great country, and have all this nice stuff, and I'm still complaining, ungrateful, spoiled, overprivileged American. I know. I'm trying to get my free time, man, so I could create so much thought-provoking things. Thanks for watching the Jonathan Lippy channel.